There have always been problems with standards in public life. The first Prime Minister, Walpole, was probably the most corrupt of all, and then we had Lloyd George in the 1910s. But I think what's been significant about the recent period under Johnson is that you have, for the first time, a Prime Minister who really didn't want to play by any rules, who delighted in flouting the rules and then flaunting the flouting. Well, I think it's partly to do with the fact that Parliament has been fairly supine over the last 20 years. The whip has replaced real debate between the parties and within the parties. Under Johnson, the problem was that there was such a large majority, and he thought he could get away with anything, which was why they put the Conservative whip on the overturning of the Patterson report, which was unprecedented. Institutions are based on a sort of good chaps theory that we have conventions that often aren't written down and fully understood. We expect people to abide by them. What I wanted to do was to look at the regulators who should have maintained ethical standards in government. So I looked at the Independent Advisory on Ministerial Interest. I had very little power. Advisory Committee on Business appointments. All of these bodies were either toothless, sometimes designed to be toothless, had grown up at different times. So I think what's needed is an overview and an overhaul of those ethical regulators. Well, I'm conscious that when Rishi Sunak went down Downing Street, he said that he was going to restore integrity to the government. And I think things have improved. You don't have the obvious delight in breaking rules, but he's made some curious appointments and probably worse, stuck by them when issues were raised. So we've had Nadeem Zahar, we've had Gavin Williamson, we've had his standing by his old boss, Richard Sharp. All of these things do cast doubt on the Sunak legacy. Well, I think a lot of it is culture, and there's no getting away from that. I think one of the problems is that the best and the brightest don't necessarily go into politics now. I know our own students at my college, very few, they're very interested in politics, but it's usually single issue politics, particularly climate change, rather than political parties. So I think the best and the brightest don't necessarily go into it. We need a change of culture, but I think it would be helped by an overview of the ethical regulators. Well, I think it has. I think the lack of trust in politicians has been going down for many decades, and there's particularly skepticism, if not cynicism, amongst the young. It would be interesting to see how many vote in the general election.